what's going on?
Not much. How are you? Welcome to Marketing Mondays number 84, everybody.
84, man. We are getting up there. I mean,
Yeah.
it's I definitely knew, I didn't realize we were up to 84 already, but closing in on 100. We'll have to do something special for the 100th episode.
Absolutely. We apologize for not being here last week. I think I might have came down with a Rona bug of some sort, and
you would not have wanted to listen to Ronnie talking last week. That's for sure.
I forced you through a call on Tuesday listening to me. So
I'm glad you're feeling better, man, especially right in time for the holiday. You don't want to be feeling like that over the holiday. That's for sure.
No, that's for sure. You are correct. Yeah, it was not fun. And if anybody else is out there feeling that, I wish you luck because it has been going around. I know my wife's work. Everybody's got it over there. So I think I can blame her for that, for one thing. But I know even Matt, our colleague, had said that something's going around down in Texas too. So it's all over the place.
If you have small kids, man, whatever's going around, you're going to get it. Yeah. Fortunately, now with my kids being a little bit older, 16 and 18, it's not as bad. But when your kids are young, they're like magnets for everything.
Yeah, especially if they can't blow their nose too. Then they just kind of keep everything in. So, but yes, I'm glad to be back. I hope people took a chance and looked at our clip show that I made last week with a bunch of stuff across the last couple of years I kind of put together. So hopefully that helped you out. But we're glad to be back and hopefully can answer some questions for you that we've kind of compiled over the last couple weeks.
Absolutely. And I don't want to date the episode for the future, but for everybody this Thursday that is in the United States and celebrating, happy Thanksgiving. The mere fact that you're watching this online means that you've got a lot to be thankful for. If you're watching this on a computer, phone, whatever, we all have a lot to be thankful for. Sure, we always have things that could be better or that we could complain about, but a lot to be thankful for.
For sure. I'm thankful for the people that are coming in and adding some comments and stuff. So hi, Dave. Hi, Jordan. We're glad that you're here with us today.
What's going on, Jordan and Dave? I saw Dave at SEMA. I haven't seen Jordan in a while. Good to see you in here, Jordan.
Yeah. So we'll kick it off. We've got a few questions and hopefully these will be helpful to you guys. We're kind of sticking with a lot of stuff that goes on for newer or smaller businesses. Obviously, if you have a company that you've had around for a while, hopefully this still is something to think about and gives you some ideas as far as the marketing and stuff that you can do. So the first question that came in is, as a new business, where do I start when trying to identify my target audience and conducting proper market research?
Well, obviously, as far as if you're brand new and you don't really have a lot of history with doing business or whatever, you're kind of, you might have to rely on maybe other people, in the industry reps, people like that can give you some indication. Once you've been in business for a little while, you'll start to be able to establish your own, demographic, like who's doing business with you and things like that. There's also ways to do what we would call keyword research. So if you're going to do any SEO on a website or you're going to do any Google AdWords, you're going to want to optimize that SEO and optimize your Google AdWords campaigns for the words that people are actually searching for in your category, in your industry category. So there's ways you could do keyword research. There's a couple free tools and some paid tools as well, but a good example, we do work with a lot of people in the window film industry. And I often use this example because in the window film industry, we often refer to the product that is used to put window film on a home to save energy, reduce glare, reduce fading as residential window film. Well, the problem is if you use that for SEO or you use that for Google AdWords, the problem with that is almost no consumers are actually searching for the product utilizing those words. They're looking for things like home window tint or heat reducing window tint or things like that. So, you really have to understand what people, if you think about anything, keyword research, anything like that, you have to put yourself in the position of what is somebody when they sit down in front of their computer or pull their phone out, what are they actually searching for? And then you optimize your website and you optimize your Google AdWords or anything else for those keywords, for those things that people are looking for. So I'm not sure if I answered the question completely or not. Where do I start to identify my target audience and conduct proper market research? I think, again, if you're new to the industry, if you're completely new to the industry and you don't really know where to start, you might want to lean on some people like, hopefully you have a good rep for the company whose products you're buying or things like that can help you get started. You have to sort of do it a little bit in your area, find out the places. The reason I said once you've been in business for a while, because if you're using an app that tracks it like a TintWiz or something like that, you can actually start to figure out where your customers are coming from by zip code, things like that, do some research. Because if you just do all your marketing based on a random 15-mile radius, that might hit the areas you're looking for, but you may also be hitting 50% of that radius might be areas that are not going to be doing business with you or are not good candidates to do business with you. So you really wanted to get the most out of your dollars, make sure you're just showing your ads or just optimizing your site or your Google business page for the areas that are most relevant and most likely to potentially convert into business for you.
Yeah, I think those are good tools. The one I kind of thought when I was kind of going through, I looked at TikTok and Instagram to kind of see what other people were saying. And one of the things I noticed was kind of creating a customer profile. I think you kind of described this, but kind of creating this ideal customer and figuring out what they would be, whether it's demographic wise, financially, and kind of get an idea of the person that you would kind of want to target. I think that at least for me, if you have no idea, like who would you, on a very broad macro sense, like who would you kind of be able to target and pull in?
Yeah.
Or who would need this service, or what kind of value would they benefit from having you as a customer, or as them as a customer? So I think that's kind of at least the starting block that I was kind of thinking of, like, who is your customer? When I started a business, a smaller business that may not know exactly everything about the intricacies of marketing or just social media in general, and what their budget might be, and kind of break down a few different things of like, okay, this person might fit what I kind of want. And obviously that's kind of a broad general sense of like looking for your target market versus obviously I went out and I was hitting the pavement too, going door to door, because you got to do everything when you're a new business, and kind of handing out a card or a flyer or whatever it might be to kind of get that brand awareness, which could be something to think about too. And so people need to know that you're in business. And so whether it's you're using social media, you create a social media page or whatever it might be, or an email blast, or if you're going to do phone calls and kind of hit businesses or whoever your target would be, whether that's another thing too to think about, is what you provide something that could target a specific person, or would it be a business that might benefit better from you as well? So kind of figuring out what that is kind of key to everything as well.
I mean, I think what you said, I mean, to use marketing speak, you might use like a word like avatar, like, build an avatar of your perfect customer, like where do they live? What is their income? And then you figure out a way, because that's going to depend on what platforms you use. Again, if your avatar or your target is 16 to 24, TikTok may very well be a great, even Snapchat still is being used, might be a very real place where you can go after that. But if somebody's 45 and a homeowner and that's your target demo, I still would say Facebook and Instagram is a really good place to go. So you really have to, you have to define what your typical customer is going to look like, because everything else is going to flow from that. And I think, even the type of copy you use in your text, would you use kind of slangy type copy that people in a certain demo might be familiar with, and it's going to feel native to them and they're going to feel very comfortable with your company? Or is your client going to be a little bit more formalized, and if you use a little bit too much slang, it may actually turn them off? So it really dictates everything about what you're going to do with your marketing.
Agreed. We'll say hi, Rob. I saw Eric pop up on here. And Jordan actually had a question for us too. He says, I just started more of my marketing for my mobile business. How can I help myself with less photos and content? I don't know if that's other ways, or if he's saying less photos, more content. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm looking at the question myself. I'm not sure if he's saying he doesn't have a lot of photos or content. So how could he help without photos or content? Or maybe if you can clarify, Jordan, we'd love to ask your question. I just want to make sure we're answering the right question. So,
I'm going to take a guess, and just if it's one of those things where you don't have a lot of content, you don't have a lot of photos, but yet you still want he doesn't have as many photos or content. So I think you can kind of reuse. I think if you only have, let's just say 20, 25, if that's something that might be a lot for some people, it might be a teeny little bit. But to me, you have to figure out the spacing and scheduling. If you're posting different things. I've mentioned this before, where you could take 3 or 4 photos, put that into a video format, and kind of do a voiceover over it, and then put that in as a reel. And that's going to reach more people than just a static photo on your page, because
absolutely.
Before, where if you're just putting up a post, that's going to people that are following you. If you're going to be putting out a reel or a TikTok, the algorithm automatically is going to be sending this out to, it's almost like 85% non-followers versus 15% of the people that follow you. So you're going to get more bang for your buck, even though you're not spending anything as far as doing a reel, just because it's going to target, the algorithm is going to target people who are finding content similar to this intriguing, or that they liked it or commented on it. And as well as liking and commenting, making sure that if somebody comments on a post, that you're commenting back on it. And that's going to create, the algorithm is going to realize, like, oh, people are talking about this, so I should put this out to more people. It's like the concept we talked about before, probably, I don't know how many episodes ago, the Jordan versus LeBron debate, because as soon as you put that out, people are going to argue and discuss. And the algorithm is going to keep pushing this out to people, because it's going to be like, oh, they're talking about this. This post is generating user engagement, so I should be putting this out. So figuring out ways to use what you have and then kind of spit that out. I'll let you talk if there's something that you can think of that's, if you don't have the content, are there other avenues or means to do that?
I mean, you certainly, I think the first thing comes to mind is, depending, Jordan, which manufacturer's product you're using, you can always hack at most of them. If you're buying their product, they're not going to have a problem with you repurposing the content that they're creating. So that's a way that you could potentially have some pretty professional looking stuff that you could utilize on your page. There's always there's plenty of free photo places. Unsplash is a good one. There's a lot of them. If you just search for free photos, you could find them. So there's a couple options you could use there. The first place I'd probably look, though, is the manufacturer you're using. Ask them if they have a portfolio of pictures and creative that you can maybe tap into.
Yeah, no, I was definitely say Unsplash. We did an episode the other time when you were gone at SEMA, where I kind of went through and showed you all the different Unsplash stuff, or Pixels, Pixabay. So there are a lot of different websites that are out there that kind of give you stock images. As far as
for free. I mean, the ones we're talking about are free. There's always paid options, but we're talking about like ones that you can go and get images for free.
My other thought too on this, if you're not talking about social media, it's doing, like I mentioned before, whether you're doing an email blast and you kind of put 2 or 3 of your best images in, you kind of create some sort of a flyer or a newsletter. And we've talked about this before. It doesn't have to be just specifically about your business. If you kind of give value, kind of show what you do, kind of if you want to engage the local community. And that was one thing I tried doing. I don't know if this is relevant to anybody else, but finding emails might be a little tricky and hard to do. I went through Menards and kind of found like their flyers, and they had different businesses that were listed on there. So that might be something to think about. He does.
He also asked the follow-up. Do you recommend doing more educational videos? I think if you could do educational videos, short form in the form of a reel,
yeah,
that's what I would do.
I think that should be your top thing, because that's giving your customers value. So,
Yep.
and you can kind of explain what you're doing. And like we've mentioned this before as well, if it's something where you become the product expert in the field, as far as this is what I'm showing you. And even if it's not a pitch, you're just trying to give somebody information, and then people are going to come back because, oh, this guy showed me how to do this. And it's, I think that should be probably your top priority as far as content should be, educating whoever you can. Obviously, we're here doing this. This is number one for us as far as trying to help you understand what to do. And it's obviously something that is helpful to a lot of people. So I definitely think this should be something. He mentions, hey, this is your name, the benefits of mobile window tinting. Yeah. Or I think Patrick's mentioned this a few times as well, as what are the problems or the issues that the majority of your customers come in, or the questions that they're asking you.
Amen.
Turn around and answer those on a video. It's
yeah. And your intro to that, Jordan, can be, I get asked this question all the time, and just you could even do some funny reels where they lead in, and like the pull or the hook is the top 3 questions I get asked about window tinting. And if somebody's interested in window tinting or whatever, even if they're not, sometimes the way that people consume TikTok and consume reels, they're going to be like, I'm going to watch this. So you got to figure out a way to engage them first, or, so they don't just swipe right by. So, a great way to figure out what people might be interested in is exactly what Ronnie's saying. And what we've talked about in the past is think about the top 10 things people ask you questions about. That's the first 10 things I'd potentially, hey man, I see what you're saying, Jordan, that you're bad at acting, but you got to get comfortable with it, man. You don't have to be, an Oscar winning actor. In fact, I think sometimes people actually respond better to just like, transparent, real. So I think that though, if you have something to talk about to where you're like, imagine at scale, you're saying, hey, I get asked this question 5 times a week. Now you're answering that question at scale. Hopefully you're going to get 5,000 people to watch your answer to that. And that might be the way that, that those people come to you. So don't try to like think of like, hey, what do I want to talk about? Allow your customers to sort of dictate what you talk about. Every time a customer asks you a question, that could be a reel. Every time.
Yep.
Just a thought, Jordan.
I think one of the things I was going to mention too is if you have 3 or 4 seconds to catch somebody, whether it's in a reel or on a TikTok. So, and that can be daunting, and just me saying that might scare you off, but it's go and look online. You can look up top hooks, or how do I engage? Just kind of search that in the TikTok and Instagram. And just within the day, I think the algorithm was trying to tell me that I might get this question. I've seen these guys like, instead of this, say this. And so you can find a lot of different tips and stuff that are out there. It's just, you got to do your research just like we do. And hopefully we can kind of give you a pointer or kind of direct you in a certain way. But I think there's understanding how to say something rather than just like, hi. And even if you are just yourself, that if you're quiet, you're reserved and shy, take a few times. You don't have to post the video as soon as you do it. You could do practice for a week and kind of just record yourself and get comfortable staring at yourself in the video, because that's can be something that's daunting as well, as no one likes taking selfies. But if you're thinking like, I'm talking to a customer, so I have to get over this whatever anxiety issue or just not wanting to stare at myself, you get more comfortable the more that you do. And even if you can go back 2 or 3 months down the road and be like, hey, here was my original one. This one's funny because I was so awkward, and you can turn that into content down the road. So
you could even do like a series, like top questions asked at a tint shop. Number one, like I see a lot of TikToks where they pull people into future ones or pull people into following because they have like number 1, number 2, and they do them in separate things. So. And if you really don't like looking at the camera, you don't like that idea, maybe you could even have somebody like a mock, like customer asking you a question and you're answering, if you feel better, and have the camera be like a third party perspective of you answering a question for that party. You can play around with different things. What I would not recommend is thinking about what you're going to say so much that you have it like scripted. Like it's like you turn the camera on and it's like you're reading from a teleprompter, or you're reading from a script. It's going to come off as being very just not genuine. And it's just, I mean, what I would write, don't worry about getting every word exactly correct. Talk to the camera like you're talking to a customer, and I think that's going to come off as genuine and come across well. If you try to think, man, I'm going to memorize the 5 sentences I'm going to say, it's just going to feel stiff, and it's not going to come off good.
And he's asking about lives as well. I think that can be beneficial to people if I know it's, if you have over 1,000 followers on TikTok and some of these other platforms where you're allowed to go live, I think you should. If you overdo it, it might be one of those that somebody might get burnt out if you're doing it 3 or 4 times a day. If you have a small following, just because you're trying to get people in, I think whether you plan it out, and if you want to do one a day, we do one a week here doing this. And it's beneficial because you can reuse the content like we do and then put it out on different social mediums. So
what I would say, Jordan, on that, exactly what Ronnie was just saying. If there's a way you can download your live and you're talking about some of these things on your live, you can then chop that up and maybe even use it as 3, 4, 5, 6 reels instead of like you trying to do a reel. Just take a live that you're already on and maybe try to turn that into a reel. If you notice what Ronnie does for iMagnet is he takes these episodes and cuts them up into all different types of things, everything from Instagram reels to YouTube videos and everything in between. So if you're already creating the content with a live, just try to think, how can I take what I'm already creating and exponentially use that in other ways?
And this has been the Jordan Show. You got a lot of great questions. Thank you, man. I hope other people are getting helpful. He mentions he's got over 6K on TikTok, but it's never locals. It's always random people. How do you combat that? Of course, I'd love to help you out. Just reach out. I think one of the things that I would probably suggest is figure out especially if you're a tint shop, it might be pretty tricky to figure out, how do I engage people that aren't in my community? And whether it's you have a giveaway, or if you actually have a product that you could ship out and sell, and whether it's one of the things that when I was at Interwest and helped a lot of different dealers and shops with random jobs, whether it was they were doing decals or something that people could put on to work mugs, or if you had something small, cheap, inefficient that you could kind of mass produce, then you could at least reach those people. But I think trying to engage the local audience, you could have a live show where I don't know if you see the guy that does the Love Your Journey on TikTok, who gives out the watches. So you could have some sort of pop-up thing, like, all right, once every quarter, the next person that rolls up, I'll give you a free bumper or some sort of deal that if they are local and close, they're going to start noticing it and maybe come out. So you can kind of try to figure out some sort of thing to get people around, but it's going to be hard to kind of sift through, especially TikTok, to find the locals.
I mean, one of the things too that we've talked about, obviously you're reaching people organically. That's why you got 6,000 people on TikTok. But you can always take TikToks and reels that you have seen to be popular, ones that people were responding to and that are resonating, and then put some dollars behind those. And then you can target the specific area you want that ad to go to, so that you can use something, but you're already utilizing the organic to let you know which videos people are responding to. So you already know you've got kind of a good one to use, because if a lot of people have liked it or commented, so that allows you to use that. So
yeah, even if your marketing budget is low, I think the Gary V rule is, if you have something that's popular, reuse it, because not everybody has seen that. So you definitely had a margin of people that saw it, but especially if you do it as another reel or another TikTok, it's going to be pushed out to new people. So not everybody has seen all of your content. And I think that was something for me that was hard to get over, was I kept thinking like, oh, I can't reuse this. I already showed this to people 2 months ago. But it's like, if it's 2 months ago, people have forgotten it, or because who knows how many
And
things
not,
have already gone
not
through.
everybody that's following your page has seen it either. Depending on what time you posted it, maybe they weren't on TikTok for a couple days, whatever. A decent chunk of the people that follow your page, follow your Instagram page, whatever, potentially didn't see it. So if it's one that was popular, you may consider reusing it, maybe post it on a different day, a different time, and you'll catch a whole different segment of your followers.
Or a different channel. I think that's something to consider too. If you had something pop off on Instagram, try it on TikTok. Obviously, they're not going to parallel and be the same audiences just because the demographics are different, but try different things. We've talked about A/B testing. Try with the stuff that I'll break up, I'll put it out on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, and I kind of see what works. And in the future, like a month down the road, I might try to reuse the same piece because it was popular. So it's just something to think about. He's got another question. What about geo-targeting while being mobile? What would you recommend?
Well, I mean, geo-targeting is going to be, I mean, if there's a particular area you tend to service more than others, that's where you would target. So, geo-targeting can mean a lot of different things. People use that term interchangeably for a lot of different things, but ultimately you're just defining the area that you're targeting with your advertising. So if you geo-target it, you would want to geo-target it in the area where you tend to do the most business, or an area that you're trying to expand your business into. So you could geo-target down pretty narrow as well. I mean, we did work, I think I mentioned this on a previous episode, for a variety of clients that were exhibiting at SEMA, and we geo-targeted the Las Vegas Convention Center to tell people where their booth was at, and to come and see them and any specials they had and things like that, to just try to grab people's attention that happened to be at the show and get them to come and check out their booth. So lookalike audiences can be beneficial if you have a very, anytime you're using data, which is what lookalike audiences do, the larger your sample set or the larger your list, the better that lookalike audience is going to be, because there's more data points they can match up. So if you've only got like an email list of 50 people, it might be hard to get a really solid lookalike. But if you have a lookalike audience of 5,000, if you have an email list of 5,000 people, you can use that to generate a pretty solid lookalike audience, because there's a lot of data points within that 5,000 person list. So just got to be careful with lookalike audiences that the sample set you're using to create the lookalike audience is a large enough sample set.
We're hitting close to a half an hour. I'm going to jump down to one of our terms to know, just because I want to keep that trend going. And we might come back to these other questions next week. Is the marketing terms to know. What is value proposition? I think I said that one right. What is your take when you think about value proposition?
I mean, in simple terms, I would say, what do you bring to the table? Like, what do you bring to the table that is different than the competition? Like, a value proposition isn't that you're, to use, I know, Jordan's a window film installer, a mobile window film installer. So your value proposition can't just be that I install window film, because everybody that's in the window film industry in your area installs window film. So that's not a value proposition. What makes you different? Why should somebody choose you versus the competition? Is it a value proposition? Could be maybe a particular brand that you have that's maybe you feel superior to the other things, and you can explain that. It might be the number of years of expertise that you have. It might be the fact that you're mobile and you'll come to them and do the job on site, where somebody else will require you to bring the car to their shop. You have to figure out what you bring to the table that the other party do. A value proposition isn't the same thing everybody does. Installing window tint, an automotive window tint job, is ubiquitous. Like, everybody that they're looking at does that. What makes you different than everybody else? You have to determine that, and it may be different for everybody, but you have to explain, what you do. Like, maybe it's the process you go through, the cleanliness, the level of preparation you do to ensure that the installation is cleaner than the average company out there. Maybe it's a warranty option that you offer that nobody else offers. But the value proposition is what differentiates you from the crowd. And just the fact that you do something doesn't differentiate you from the crowd. So that's what I think. Like, what do you bring to the table? Not just,
Yep.
That could be said for any business. If you're an Italian restaurant and you're competing with other Italian restaurants and you say that you sell spaghetti, it's like, well, no joke. You're an Italian restaurant. Of course you sell spaghetti. But what makes your spaghetti better? Why should I come to you for spaghetti instead of the other places?
No, absolutely. I have this defined as a unique identifier that makes a company or product attractive to its customers. It's a clear statement that explains how your product solves customers' problems, delivers specific benefits, and tells the ideal customer why they should buy from you and not from the competition. And I think I'll put a little spin on this just because I think it's a rapper. I don't remember who specifically. For all I know, it could be Jordan. There was somebody who does these unique things. One time he was wrapping a vehicle in one of those inflatable dinosaur costumes. And then I kind of went through and I got his stuff later on that he did a wrap for Candy Crush and their specific expo for 10 years. Yeah. And he was the specific one that kind of did. So it can also be, when I read that definition, I was like, okay, it's a clear statement. So that could be like your mission statement. It's like, how are you defining what makes you different and better than somebody else to get people to come to you, as well as what attracts people to you because of your uniqueness. And I think we've mentioned that before with what kind of value or what separates you, as far as whether it's in my head when I first was thinking of it was like my reviews, or I've like 500 5-star reviews from different people because of my service and cleanliness, or it's I was picked by this local magazine to do something. So there are different ways to do it, even if you are starting off. If it's just figuring out a way to make yourself unique in a way that puts you up on a pedestal, more or less, and you are blowing. You're kind of infatuating who you are, but this is what you would hope to bring to everybody that comes there.
Yeah, I would say it's got to be to wrap this up with a bow. I would say it does have to be, though. I know what you're saying about building it up a little bit, but it does have to be true to who you are.
Yep.
Because you don't want to like promise somebody something in a value proposition, or like when you're talking to people and you're putting this out there as a value proposition and then fall short of that. That's what's going to end up getting you bad reviews and things like that and unsatisfied customers. So it's got to be, maybe you could, inflate it a little bit like Ronnie was saying, but it's got to be true to who you are. If you say to somebody, hey, my preparation process ensures the cleanest window film install that you're going to find, well, you damn sure better deliver on a clean window film install, or you've sort of fallen short of the exact value proposition that you promised. So the other thing I would say too is that, and again, I said this in the very beginning when I was answering this, but you really have to be careful, because a lot of times somebody will come up with a mission statement or things like that, like Ronnie was talking about. But what they're saying is, that's what your business does. Okay, like everybody does that. You have to figure out what makes you unique or you different, or what value you bring to the table that the other people don't. Because again, if you're an Italian restaurant, it's not enough to say you're an Italian restaurant. I mean, that's on the title of, that's in the name of your business. I mean, of course, I know you're an Italian restaurant. That's not a value proposition. You saying that you guys use a recipe from your great grandmother that immigrated from Italy, and you still use the same recipe today, and you guys fly in you go to a place that flies in fresh ingredients from Italy once a week. Now you're starting to get into the value proposition of why I'm going to come to your Italian restaurant versus the one down the street.
Yep. No, I had same thing with a pizza place here in Chicago. There was a recipe that was 70 years and that was recommended by a lot of different people because of the flavor, and they kept the recipe so long. So yeah, it's figuring out what makes you and making sure that people know about it. But also, as you mentioned, don't oversell and underdeliver. Make sure you undersell and overdeliver so that people are going to share this and then want to come back and be like, this was such a great experience.
Absolutely. I think we're right up against the bumper. So thank you for the questions, though, Jordan. I hope you found it helpful. I hope everybody else that was watching found some of those answers helpful as well. This is exactly what we want to do on Marketing Mondays. We want to answer the questions you guys have. We always have questions that people queue up to us and things like that to answer. But as I've mentioned before, we will always go out of our way to answer the questions of the people that are here tuned in live. And usually those questions are going to be beneficial to other people that are watching or people down the road as well later. So just like we actually recommended to you to answer the questions you get asked in your business, I think when we answer your questions or other people's questions, we're providing the most value because we're actually answering questions for people that they actually have. So thank you for your questions, Jordan. I hope you found it beneficial. Thank everybody for tuning in. Again, if you're in the United States and you're celebrating Thanksgiving, I hope you have a great Thanksgiving this week. We will be back next week, Lord willing. I mean, if nothing comes up, I don't think Ronnie's going to get, hopefully not get COVID again. Hopefully me either, but we plan on being here next week. So yes. Appreciate everybody tuning in.
No, for sure. And thank you to Jordan. And yeah, if you have a podcast, I'm sure we would love to come on there at some point. I don't want to speak for Patrick, but I'm sure he would be interested.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yes, thank you, everybody. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Have a very safe Black Friday. Don't get run over by anybody, and be nice and courteous to everyone. Be thankful on Black Friday. Like, I think that's one thing to make sure. Yeah. Don't be fighting over the specific toys. Be grateful that you're out and alive. So
yeah, absolutely. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.